Good day, everyone. It's fantastic to see you again. We're back, and when we last left, we had this bit of text on the screen, and we had a little colored rectangle going back and forth, and we had a little bit of an issue with it. And if you sit here and watch it long enough, you'll see it will start, if it gets outside of its little bounds area where we were putting it. And remember, by the way, and there we go, boom. As soon as you click off of it, we get this really squiggling effect. And what's going on there is when it gets below, like let's take the case when it comes down here to 120. When it gets less than 120, it will say, okay, I want to swap that direction. And so then it goes along its way and it swaps the direction. But if this delta time is not enough to get it out of this section where x is less than 120, when it next rolls along, if it's still less than 120, it's going to flip the direction again, and thus it's going to stutter like this. So that's one of the two things that's going on that's not right. So let's fix that first, and then I'll show you the other thing that can that can happen. Okay, so if x is less than 120, we want the direction to just be positive. So else if x is greater than 400, then we want the direction to be equal to -1. And now when we run this, we will not have that problem. But if we grab this window and we hold it, you see how the rectangle skipped? Well, what's going on is when we grab that window, Love2D is not calling update during that time, but it is accumulating that delta time. And so the next time that right as you let go of that window, it will begin to call update again. And it will, but the first time it calls it, it will call it with a giant delta time. Like if I hold this for a second or 2 seconds, when I let it go, it will call update with that with that huge delta time, and that messes things up. It makes things appear to jump. So what we can do to combat that is we can come in here, at least initially right now, we can say, if delta time is greater than, let's say, 30, I don't know, let's say 40 milliseconds, then just return. So basically we're saying, look, if delta time gets above 40 milliseconds, then just don't even bother to call our update. You see, and I forgot the end. All right, so now when I grab it, I can hold this window and move it around, and then when I let it go, watch the rectangle. See, it just starts right back up. That's kind of more of the behavior that we want. It's just a trick of finding a value in here that works so that you don't begin to, if the computer or if wherever you're running this, if it's a very demanding game, if it begins to slow down, you don't want it to just completely stop because the frame rate just dies. So anyway, there are other ways to handle this or whatever, but I just wanted to make you aware of that's why that was happening. So it was really kind of two things going on there. So we fixed that. So that's good. Now that we've completed that little chunk, what we want to do today, and we don't need any of this code today. You know what I want to do? Let me just grab this. I'm going to stick it over here for now, but we don't need any of this code. So we're going to delete it all. What we want to do today is we want to load an image and display it. And I found, looking around, I found a cute little image. It's actually a sprite sheet of a little guy. It's got some animations. And where is it? I'll show it to you right here. So it's got some cute little animations right here. So let's load this whole image and let's draw it to the screen. Let's see how we can do that. Well, you saw that. I already downloaded the image. I came in here and I created a new folder. I called it Assets, and that's where we'll store our graphics and our sounds and all that kind of stuff. I made another folder called GFX or graphics, and then I put the hero.png file in there. So what we want to do is we want to make a local, let's call it the Hero Atlas. And in love.load, which is again called once whenever you execute your game, just once, which is what we want. So an initial load, so we want to initialize stuff. We want to load this Hero Atlas. So the Hero Atlas equals, and there is a function called new image, and it's love.graphics.new image, and I'll show you .new image, and that takes a file name. So our file name is going to be relative to where this file is, which is right here. So we want to go into the assets folder, assets, and then we want to go to graphics, and we want to load hero.png. Now we've loaded it, or well, that's what that's done. Now we want to draw it. Well, that's no problem either. We can go love.graphics.draw. So anything that is a drawable object, you see this, any kind of drawable object, and you go here and you can see what does that mean. It's a superclass for all things that can be drawn on the screen. Okay, so all sorts of different things that can be drawn on the screen, as you can see. Now we know that this is one of those things, an image. It's an image. So we can take the Hero Atlas, and we want to draw this. We'll draw it at 25, and we'll do X of 25 also. And we'll run it, and you'll see the atlas appear. Wonderful. Fantastic. Beautiful. We can also do things, we go back to draw. We can also scale that. So we put a 0 for the orientation. We don't care about that. Let's scale it by 2 just for fun and enjoyment, because it's nice. And you can see there is some, when it scales, it utilizes certain algorithms to do that. And you can see if we want pixel art, it's fuzzing the image right now, and that is not exactly what we want. So what we want to do is we want to change that image interpolation mode, and I cannot remember exactly what that command was. Filter mode, that's it. That's what we want. So how do we, there we go. See, image.setFilter. So can't we set, can we set just the canvas, or do we have to set the image filter? Let's just go ahead and set, let's just set the image filter on the Hero Atlas. We'll do set filter, and let's go see what the we want. Actually, we want filter mode. We want, so how do you set the filter mode? Is there a set filter mode? Surely there is. Love.graphics. Let's do that. I know there is. I've used it. I just can't remember what it's called. Filter. No, we want to set default filter. Set. There we go. See, sets the default scaling filters used with images, canvases, and fonts. That's what we want. So we want to do, we'll just do that here in love.load, and I'm going to put it up here because, I don't know, it feels like it should be up here. Graphics.set default filter. Now, so yeah, so we got a filter mode, a minimum filter mode, a maximum filter mode, and we don't need that parameter. And that's going to be linear is the default. What we want is nearest. Just like that. Boom. So now we load it, and we're going to scale and see how we're nice and pixelated, which is exactly what we want. Now, something else that we want is we want, I'm going to bring that back down to 1 for now. We want to draw this thing. We want to draw a part of it, and Love, it allows you to do that. It's a different type of object, and that is a quad. So what we want to do is we'll create yet another variable, and we'll call it just hero. Let's call it hero sprite, because that's pretty much what it is. So let's do that, and let's set that up initially here in the love.load. So we'll say hero sprite equals love.graphics.new quad. And whoops. And now this, as you see, is the top left position in the image along the x-axis, and then there's a y. So what we want to do is we want to figure out where we want to come in and grab that. And I happen to know that that location is offset x 16 and 16, and these little guys have a cell width of 16 pixels. So square 16 pixels for each of these. So we want this one. Actually, we probably want that one. Kind of weird. Oh, I know what happened. This was originally all this around it was originally this color, and I just didn't get this piece. That looked kind of weird there. And see, here's some right here that I didn't get. I wanted to get all of that stuff out so that there would just be plain old transparent pixels around it. So there we go. I think I want this one, and that's going to be 16. That's going to be 32, 16. Should be. So for the x, we're going to be 32 into the image that we're going to want to use, and 16 down from that original image, from this atlas that we're fixing to use. And we know the width is 16 and the height is 16. And for now, actually we have to do the reference width of the image. And I'm not sure now let's just do that. So let's take, I think this is what you're supposed to do. Not a her atlas. How many times have I done that? Her atlas. And we'll do get dimensions. By the way, you'll notice that sometimes we'll use the dot. If you don't know much about Lua, sometimes you'll see you'll use the dot to call certain functions, and then there are other times where you'll use this colon. Well, what is this colon versus the dot? Well, the colon is an interesting little device, a little syntactical sugar kind of thing. And what really that does is it says when you call this function, pass this object into that function. So it's like it's called self, but it basically passes an additional hidden parameter into that function, so that function can operate on that. Really, that's a table. It can operate on that table, that particular table. So, and then some of these right here don't require a specific object. You know, this is creating an image. This is setting the default filter. This is creating a new quad. So that's what's going on there. Now, yeah, so we've got blah, 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 love.graphics.draw image, top left, bottom left. Let's see what happens when we do love.graphics.draw, and let's try to draw the hero. Let's just see what we get. Let's draw it same here, and let's draw it 100. Let's probably draw it 200 down. What was it? Oh yeah, 0, 1, 1, and we don't need that right now. Oh, I was just sticking it in there. Okay, so bad argument to draw, drawable expected, got quad. Okay, so what did I? Bottom left. Oh, really? Okay, well that does make sense. I mean, you've got to reference that somewhere, and that's something that I'm going to have to do in the Visual Studio Code extension. Or did I do that? I think I did that. Here we go. See, here's what we want to do. Yeah, see, that's the one we want. So that's our atlas, and that's the quad that we want to draw on the screen, and that's the position we want to draw the object for X and Y. So let's save that and let's run that and see what happens. And there he is, the little fella, he's right there. Now, let's make him a little bit bigger. Scale factor, let's do 4 times for X and Y. There he is, and he still has that little, did I not save that? I thought I saved that. Oh, that's the wrong file. Fantastic. let's, yeah, see, saved it as the old hero. Let's do this real quick. Boom. And we'll rename this as hero. And I'll just go ahead and get rid of this. Now, he'll be good. Yeah, perfect. So we've got our hero. So what we can do is we can just, well, let's comment this out. By the way, I just hit Control / which is kind of a nice thing because it'll comment out. It's independent of what kind of code, what type of language you're using. If Visual Studio Code recognizes it, it will just comment it out. It's pretty cool. So let's draw this instead of 200. Let's draw it at 25 by 25. There he is. So wonderful and fantastic. Isn't that awesome? The orientation. We can go and do things like math.pi divided by 4. And you'll see this kind of thing. Now, what's going on is, remember that at least at this point right now, the origin is in the upper left-hand corner of any image that you draw. So when it rotates it clockwise by the amount of degree, and we're in radians, so that's why I'm doing math.pi divided by 4, and there is a function, and I believe, what is it called? Is it Lua math 2 degrees, I think. It is. It's 2 degrees, or degrees. See, here we go. See, I just did a little search. Google's your friend, people. Google's your friend. There it is. So if I want to go to radians, which I do because this function takes radians, then I would just use this one. So I could do math.rad, and this is a standard Lua library, and Love2D supports it. So if I want to rotate it 45 degrees, I could do that like that, and he rotates 45 degrees. But again, I don't want the origin. I really don't like the origin at the upper left-hand corner. I mean, that's just me. And it depends on what you want to use and what you want to use it for. But when I'm rotating something, I definitely don't want the origin at the upper right-hand corner. But that's okay, because when you're drawing with this function, not new quad, but with the, where did it go? Here we go. We've got a scale factor, X and Y, and now you've also got this origin offset, X and Y offset, or X and Y axis. So what we can do is, since we know that this image is 16 by 16 pixels wide and tall, let's take half of that and see if we can't put our origin in the middle. And if we do that, indeed, it's rotating from the center of the image. But notice it also draws, well, let's remove the rotation now. It also draws that image from, so when it's positioned, now it's positioning it right here, whereas normally this place right here would be the lower left or the upper left hand corner, and then it's just offsetting it by that amount of offset that we gave it. And I think, typically we probably will want to, we'll probably end up centering these things and having the origin at the center of the image. We'll have to create a class of some sort, maybe like a sprite class or a sprite object that will kind of do some of that stuff for us. And so we can just simply say, draw the sprite, draw it here, and then we can set the origin, maybe it'll default to the center, and then if we want to change it, we can. And that will internally call this with the appropriate parameters, including the scale of the thing. So that's cool, man. We can do some cool stuff with that. As a matter of fact, let's put him in the direct middle of the screen. Since his origin now is in the middle, whenever we draw him, these coordinates are going to be the center of that sprite. So let's go back to config.lua, see how big this thing is. So we can draw him. We'll just divide these two things in half. We'll draw him at 320 by 180. He should be in the center of the screen, and he is. Beautiful. Fantastic. We're getting somewhere. We really are. Let's do one more thing just for fun, and we'll do a little bit of, we're going to do a little bit of animation because it's fun to do. Animation's fun. Let's give us ourselves another local, and we'll call it angle equals 0. We'll start at 0. And instead of 0 here, we'll say angle. And then so we're going to draw him at that. We're going to rotate him at that angle clockwise, remember. And in update, we're going to say angle equals angle plus some speed, angular speed in degrees per second. Let's say half of 45, which is 27.5, times delta time. Oh, and look, I forgot that. Let's go ahead and keep this in here too. If delta t is less than 0.3, let's say 0.5 milliseconds, then that won't really affect what we're doing right now, but at least it won't be jumpy. So there it goes, and it's going really slow. Why is it going so slow? Well, there we go. That's why. Because it wasn't updating. Oh, you know what I did? It needs to be greater than. Sorry, people. Sorry, people. There we go. Now we've got a rotating little character. You know, we could animate all sorts of stuff in here. But now, how could we, you know, we've got this one file. What about using other files, and how do we do that? Well, we'll talk about that next time. And so until next time, we'll just leave it right here. Have a great one, people. See you next time.